Good morning, gang. Happy Monday morning. Lots to talk about that we could discuss, and we'll see what I do. I mean, there was video running around social media yesterday about protests in Russia. A few of you guys sent me the links to the videos. I had Mrs. P watch it to make sure the translations were correct. They were. And that was what looks like the people that support the Russian Communist Party. Yeah, there still exists, believe it or not, protesting in the street saying nuke Washington. Uh, as Mrs. P said, she didn't recognize the guy who was leading the chants in the video. I'll link that below so you guys can watch a video of it, or a YouTuber's take and the video itself. But she didn't recognize who the guy was. She did say one thing: any protests like that do have to be state approved. So somebody went and applied for a protest to go scream and yell all this sort of stuff, and the Kremlin said this was okay. I'm just saying, there's fringe elements in the United States, there's fringe elements in every country, but just pay attention to that, okay? I don't think it's anything to worry about, but I don't know. But that's not what I want to talk about today. It was just something that came up that I wanted to touch on real fast. Economics, your money, and what's going to happen, okay? And this is your money and your food, et cetera, et cetera. A lot has been talked about in the media over and over and over again on prepper channels and the mainstream media everywhere about people being priced out of houses, right? Don't have to tell you guys this. We've talked about it before about, cost you $250,000 more at 7% than it did at 3% to finance a $200,000 house. The one that's really been overlooked, and I tripped over this yesterday and started doing some digging last night, was farms, your food, where it's growing, okay? Apparently, the developers and the big equity firms, again, we're talking BlackRock and Vanguard and all Bill Gates and all this, are buying up the farmland, all of it, and blowing the prices up so much that true farmers can't afford to buy farmland, okay? Just for example, farmland in South Dakota is up 18.7% in the last year. The average across all farmland in the country, okay? I mean, whether you're talking about orange groves in California, cornfields in Nebraska, or, cotton fields in Georgia, whatever it would be, okay, is up 12.4% this year, okay? And again, these are the official figures. Take it as you be. I mean, again, we can talk about the 8% official figure for inflation all over the place. I went to the grocery store yesterday and spent $300 on groceries and didn't even get a cart full of groceries. Yeah, we shop about once a month. So this gets worrisome because what you're talking about is farmers, regular Joe average farmer, family farm, can't afford to buy farmland, or worse yet, can't afford to keep the farmland that they have if it's financed, okay? You start, I'll give you, there's a comment from a guy by the name of Joel Gindo, who's a farmer out of Brookings County, South Dakota. He goes, I just couldn't compete with how much people are paying, with people paying 10 grand per acre. And for someone like me who doesn't have an inheritance somewhere sitting around, a lump sum of money sitting around, everything has to be financed. Yeah. Now, if you guys are familiar with how you finance land, okay, undeveloped land, usually that's putting 50% down. Now, I can't speak necessarily for farmland. I'm not a farmer, never have been, okay? But Just saying. If it's the same, you're talking about a farmer putting down $5,000 an acre. Let's start talking about Veggie Boys. You guys have heard me talk about that channel. It's a family farm up in Pennsylvania. It's got a YouTube channel. They have 80 acres. $5,000 times 80 acres. It's a lot of money to come up with. And then still to have to finance the rest of it at current mortgage rates. And mortgage rates on land are more than they are on houses. But this is where you get into why that's so difficult. When you start looking at the profit margins on a farm, okay? If you have a small farm, okay, which is something that generates less than $350,000 in revenue, all right? The average profit margin for a small farm is 4.4%. If the price of land has gone up between 12 and 18%, you can't do it. If you have a mid-size farm, okay, somewhere between $350,000 and $1 million, the average profit margin is 12.6%. Okay, even then, you're now at the bottom to break even for the national average. If you have a large-scale farm generating revenue of more than $1 million a year, the profit margin is 13.1%. Farmers can't keep up with the price of land inflation, let alone the cost of fuel, let alone the cost of fertilizer, let alone the cost of tractors or whatever it would be. This is going to put the farms out of business. Because, guys, even if the Bill Gateses of the world, these huge corporate farms come into play, they're still going to have the same type profit margins, okay? So what does that mean? It's not profitable for somebody to grow food. I hate to tell you this. This goes for any business. Farmers are not going to plant crops that they lose money on. They're not going, oh, for the good of humanity, I'm going to grow tomatoes, even though it's going to cost me money to feed the rest of the country. They're not going to do that. I hate to tell you this, all right? They're only going to plant stuff that is profitable. What crop is profitable each year? Maybe a farmer can tell us this. I mean, I heard that soybeans were profitable this year or whatever, so a lot of farmers were planting soybeans instead of other things this year. Whatever would be. But this all starts working together. We have 5 million illegals coming across the border. We've got to house them somewhere. Great. Let's have a whole bunch of developers make a whole bunch of Section 8 housing, a whole bunch of HUD housing, a whole bunch of ghettos, and let's build a new community out on farmland in South Dakota and house all these illegal immigrants, because maybe the rest of the corporate farms that the only people can afford need workers. Just saying, okay? Could that be the plan? But what this comes down to more than anything else is why it's so important to store food and to start growing your own. Because at the beginning of growing a garden, you're paying more, no doubt, okay? You're buying the lumber, buying the stone, doing whatever to build the frame of the garden. You're buying your amendments, whether it's cow manure, horse manure, whatever would be, to build the soil. You're buying your seeds, etc. At the beginning, it's more expensive. Now, right now, while you still have an income, okay, you can feasibly do that. A year from now, 2 years from now, when all of a sudden we hear these stories, I mean, I told you guys at the beginning of the year, watch the prices of food go through the roof by the end of the year. Don't think I was wrong on that one. when things get ridiculously expensive or they don't exist at all. Sorry, Mrs. Jones, there aren't any tomatoes in the store and there aren't any tomatoes coming. You want tomatoes? I'm sorry, we can't help you. And no other store in the county can, or whatever. Except you have a garden out in the backyard that has tomatoes in it. Now, over the years, you save your seeds, we share seeds, we do that. A lot of you guys have connected with each other to share seeds. Obviously, I've sent out pounds of seeds to you guys. It's imperative that you start growing your own, even on a small scale, even if it's one thing, even if all you grow is 5 tomato plants, okay? And even if you've got a little porch in an apartment, you can fit 5 tomato plants. You can get a lot of tomatoes off of 5 tomato plants, okay? Or peppers or something like that. Because not only is it going to get expensive, guys, it's not going to be available at all. I know everybody, a lot of channels talk about buy food now. It's only going to get more expensive. It's only going to get more short. And nobody gives you the reason why. It's like, my feeling is this. These are the facts. This is the proof that this is going on. When the price of land is more expensive than the farmers can make in profit, that you can't go into a bank and go, yeah, I'll pay 18% more than the land is worth and my profit margin is going to be 13%. And the bank goes, where's the other 5% come? We want the money for the financing. It's not going to happen. And the farmer can't go, I'll plant more. They're already packing as much as they can into a farm. You wonder why small farms' profit margins are less than large farms, right? Well, that tractor costs the same whether you've got a little farm or a big farm. It doesn't make it, you use less fuel, you use less fertilizer, so those costs go down. The tractor costs the same amount of money. It doesn't make, the gas that you need to haul your harvest to the mill or whatever would be, costs the same amount of money. That, you still got trucks that have to go, that equipment still costs. And then, of course, you have the for lack of a better term, leftists say, well, people should work together. They can share a tractor. We've heard that all the time. That's communism. That's the definition. One thing for everybody. Gee, we have one tractor for our 15-minute city, and everybody gets to share it. That's communism. Okay? This is what's coming, guys. When you see these big corporate farms or big companies trying to buy these farms to either build housing or they're going to do corporate farming or whatever, they're doing it to make a profit too. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to pay the farmer a pittance. Here's your minimum wage. Get out and bust your ass and work a farm. Okay? If you know a farmer, any farmer, okay, they're up at 4 in the morning and their day is done at 10 o'clock at night. But it's dark by then. Sure. When do you think the farmer does the things like, ordering their inventory, checking receipts, doing all that sort of stuff? Just because it's dark at 6:30, that's not the end of the farmer's day. They got all the paperwork that's got to get done next. Okay? It's a lot of work. This is why it is so critically important that you have food put back and you have a way on your own to replenish it. You cannot count on the grocery stores to have it, the farm market to have it, because the longer and longer and longer this goes on with prices going up for real estate, for land, for everything, for inflation, for Biden's economy, the longer Biden's economy exists, the worse and worse it's going to get. The middle class is being crushed, okay? Don't have to tell you this. We know this beyond belief. We are going to a feudal society. The rich and the poor, no middle class. That will be the demise of America. Plant, get ready, put it on your Christmas list. whatever would be. It's cold, yes, but start figuring out how to expand that garden. One more bed, one more 4x8 bed, another 32 square feet, whatever would be, gets you a lot more food. You're gonna need it. Pinball out.